In recent times, Rainmaker has become a heavily controversial topic in the Splatoon community. Many people are calling for it to be removed from tournaments, and the recent Riptide LAN featured a set and tournament point match on Rainmaker where the crowd was cheering.
And they've got 30 seconds to try to hold this in the corner.
Yeah, Vonlock T here. Great, just holding the Rainmaker in that corner. If you are the other team.
In this video, I am to make a case for Rainmaker as a mode and explain my take on playing the mode to avoid the stalling situations that many people hate the mode for. First, a little about me to establish what little credibility I have. My name is Emily, and I started playing competitive Splatoon in early 2021. For almost the entirety of my time in competitive, I was on the team Up the Ante. I've never been in the Plus server, but I am Loink banned. Most people who know a bit about me know that Rainmaker is my favorite mode in the game, and I enjoy it a lot more than most people do. I haven't played competitive actively for about a year and a half, but I still play Sunday Queue every few weeks and a tournament every few months to keep myself fresh on the game. My most relevant result in relation to this essay is 2-3 against Bet in Super Jump, where we were down 0-2 and then had a pretty convincing Rainmaker game that got us momentum into 2-2, unfortunately then losing the last game. Now that I've established who I am, why exactly is Rainmaker so hated right now? The main argument against Rainmaker is situations like we had in Riptide Grands, where one team has the lead and stalls the Rainmaker in a safe spot to bleed time off the clock. Another argument is that the mode is too cheesy in that a lot of points can be scored through sharking or other sneaky plays. There is merit in both of these arguments, especially the first one, but I'd like to point out some things about these arguments that I don't think many people realize. First, let's talk about stalling situations. It is obviously very frustrating as both a player and a spectator to see these situations. For the player, it wastes your time and resources having to get through most of the enemy team before finally being able to kill the Rainmaker carrier. For the spectator, it's boring to see the game state not change for an entire minute when we are used to the game state changing so quickly in this game. I will argue, however, that we have many similar checkmate situations in the other modes we play competitively. In most maps on Splat Zones, if a team is playing a Reef Slider and or Strikes weapon, and they get a decent lead early on, they don't even need to do proper retakes anymore. They can farm their special and cap the zone for free, die or jump out, then repeat this process 3 to 4 times before the opposing team gets a lead, or makes a mistake and dies in the process of getting cheesed, which tends to happen. There is counterplay to this in the form of killing the player with the instacap special, but there are caveats to this. First, most decent teams will play around keeping this player alive and will not let you kill the player without killing many members of the team first. Second, most of the time the instacap player will be coolered by nature of the meta we're in, so even if you kill them, they will come back with their special not depleted. This does stall the instacap for a few seconds, as the player still has to respawn and get into position, or jump to the aggro player who dropped in front of zone because they already planned for you diving the instacap player. Tower control has a universal checkmate situation in that if a team that has strikes, and less effectively Booyah Bomb, has lead going into overtime, they can charge their special and spawn and throw it at the tower to win fairly simply. Against strikes, this is unbeatable if they time them right, as the tower will be completely uninhabitable for the 5 required seconds of vacancy to end overtime. If you're willing to sacrifice one of your teammates' lives, you can have them jump on the tower in between the strikes in order to extend overtime. Against Booyah Bomb, you can have 2 members sit on the tower and jump to each other to avoid the damage of the Booyah Bomb and land back on the tower. However, the team with Booyah will likely have one of their members rush to sit on the tower during the Booyah Bomb, as this counterplay is expected. There is again counterplay to this in the form of killing the player with the strikes or Booyah, but there are once again caveats to this. First, most decent teams will play around keeping this player alive and will not let you kill the player without killing many members of the team first. Same situation as zones. Second, even getting to a position where you can kill the strike or Booyah player will be extremely hard since they will be sitting in spawn for paint most of the time. Third, the same point from zones where the player will likely be coolered and killing them will buy you even less time than in zones since the tower will be closer to their spawn and they will be in position to throw their special at it sooner. Clan Blitz has a large amount of checkmates for the team in the lead. I will use nearly uncounterable to reference cases of jumping a power claim in. The only counterplay to a power claim jump is a frame perfect bomb timing or a strike killing the jump in before they land. Firstly, an undetected shark near the end of the game will be nearly uncounterable if the leading team already has a power claim or pity claim. Secondly, if the leading team opened the losing team's basket before going into overtime, a jump in with a clam or power clam will be nearly uncounterable, as well as someone sharking until the timer reaches overtime and throwing one clam in being pretty hard to stop. Thirdly, many of the maps we play in competitive have a choke point where the leading team can just stall the losing team out from, preventing pushes without heavy resource investment. This situation is very similar to the Rainmaker stalling situations that are hated, where you need to invest a large amount of resources to finally break through to the objective. With the other modes as checkmates in mind, why is Rainmaker different? A big part of it is that anyone can do it no matter what comp they are playing. In zones and tower control, the opponent doesn't have those checkmate specials, so you don't have to worry about these situations. In Rainmaker, however, anyone can grab the Rainmaker and sit in a safe spot. The problem I see in this argument is that the leading team puts themselves at a disadvantage by doing this at the wrong time. Obviously, if there are around 10 or less seconds left, you can't do much besides dive the Rainmaker and hope you or your teammates kill them. However, in other situations where the leading team grabbed it at a time where the game won't end with it in their hands, or there is still a substantial amount of time left before the game ends, there are a few things you can do. Since the leading team will likely have someone close to the Rainmaker carrier to protect them, you cannot simply kill the Rainmaker by yourself. If your team has a large amount of specials, 2 to 3 will typically need to be invested to either isolate the Rainmaker carrier from their protection or outright kill them. Another option is to send your aggro weapon to flank safely. The goal of the flank is to get paint control in mid or closer to where you are going to push to set your team up to make a push much faster when you finally get control. The leading team will never be able to address all members of your team at all times, as one of their members is on bodyguard duty next to the Rainmaker. If you have a QR weapon that can move very well, such as Wiper or some shot builds, they can move towards the Rainmaker in attempts to get the bodyguard distracted or pulled away from the Rainmaker, and then the other members who were in front of the Rainmaker can go for the kill. The main thing not to do in these stalling situations is to dive the Rainmaker randomly or have your core defensive weapons die trying to kill the Rainmaker. Your backline or paint support should not be risking their life to kill the Rainmaker. Being able to convert to a push extremely quickly after the Rainmaker dies is one of the most important concepts that relates to countering stalling. On most maps, the good stalling spots for the leading team aren't near the spots they will normally want to be defending during a push. If you have paint control in mid from flanking during the stall, and a weapon composition that allows you to pop the Rainmaker quickly through the use of bombs, sprinklers, or weapons with high object damage, you will be able to position the Rainmaker for a push much faster and potentially catch the leading team out of position. You do not want to let the Rainmaker reset in these situations, as that will give the leading team more time to set up their defense. Next, for the counterplay to cheesy strats such as Sharkin. The easiest way to counter these plays is to grab the Rainmaker or not leave it in base to reset. If you grab the Rainmaker, the opposing team cannot gain control of it until they kill you and the shield is popped again. Even if the shark kills you, this will usually buy enough time for your team to come back or jump back to prevent the enemy from scoring a lot of points. I am not a big fan of having a member of your team puppy guard the Rainmaker to make sure it resets, as you could spend this time pushing the Rainmaker up with your team. Jumping the Rainmaker off the map to reset it is not a good strategy unless the entire enemy team is in your base or the game has spiraled out of control. Most of the time, jumping the Rainmaker off the map will do more harm than good, as your special will deplete its charge and may even invite people to push into your base with a numbers advantage. If you really don't want to adapt your playstyle to grab the Rainmaker in situations like these, you must be very thorough in clearing out the surrounding area. You are tempting fate by leaving the Rainmaker popped and ungrabbed, so being thorough will be the way to prevent sharks from getting a lot of points. Remember, a player staying still in ink will make bubbling noises that can help you determine if someone is sharking in a small patch of ink. Every mode in this game has checkmate situations that are annoying to deal with, but it's very important to remember that all of these situations have counterplay. I love watching every mode in this game, as the solutions teams come up with to make comebacks are always exciting to see. More importantly, I love playing every mode in this game, even if there are situations that feel unwinnable in the moment. Now that I've pointed out how the modes are really quite similar in terms of checkmate situations, I'd like to elaborate on what I think Rainmaker adds to both the spectating and playing experience. As a spectator, I think Rainmaker offers a lot of insight on teams' composition building ideas that you don't see in other modes. No mode is quite as volatile as Rainmaker, and I believe optimal weapon compositions for each team may vary from their default comps. It's always nice to see an unexpected weapon such as Wellstring or Dapple Dualies at the beginning of the game, as you can tell the team is making an adaptation specifically to better play the mode. I think Rainmaker also brings its own kind of hype in the concept of the fight for the Rainmaker pop while pushing. It's always so tense when a team that is losing is pushing the Rainmaker carrier dies, but the losing team is able to repop the Rainmaker faster than the winning team and have another chance to push. This process could potentially even be repeated depending on the weapon comp, allowing for multiple Rainmaker pops during a push.
Tries to pop it. Here comes another pop from the Rainmaker. It looks like they're gonna get it. They get the pop and they get the lead. Coming into dunk it. And the set is all tied up. Going to game 5.
As a player, I think Rainmaker teaches you a lot about adapting to the game state quickly. Because of the volatility of the mode, you have to respond quickly to various things that happen, and try to make the best decision in a split second. Nothing in this game will ever excite me more than snagging the Rainmaker from an enemy who was about to grab it, and escape, preventing them from starting their push. This mode will also train you on dealing with sharks and stealthy plays, as they are very strong in this mode, and not something that can be ignored or solved simply. Sharking is strong in the other modes, but it will rarely score as many points on the objective as it does in Rainmaker. This has been my argument in favor of Rainmaker in competitive play. I know I'm not a top level player or anything, but I hope my feelings still meant something to you. What follows will be the way I play Rainmaker with my team, and why I think more people should consider a playstyle similar to ours. Firstly, if you haven't seen my Rainmaker montages, I would highly recommend watching them to see the highlights of our playstyle. For the last few years, our playstyle in Rainmaker is to have the Rainmaker in our control for as much of the match as possible. By doing this, we open ourselves up to more opportunities to push and force the enemy to make hard split-second decisions, while closing off opportunities for sharks to cheese points. We achieve this playstyle through the use of high object damage so we can pop the Rainmaker shield even with numbers disadvantage, and 2 core weapons that can move very quickly to take control of the Rainmaker in neutral situations. Next, let's talk about the weapon composition. This can vary, but as of now, we have a core of Sploosh, V-Dualies, and Bloblobber. The 4th weapon depends on who we are playing with, but we find the most success when it is a weapon that can focus on kill power, such as a Blaster or Tri-Slosher. We don't typically run Cooler, as we tend to move around and feed too much for the Cooler player to get enough value from staying safe and getting Coolers. The main Rainmaker grabber in the comp is the Sploosh. It has one of the best object damage in the game, and Hammer if the main weapon isn't enough. We don't lose much when the Sploosh grabs, as it doesn't provide much during pushes due to its poor range and subpar pushing special. The Sploosh will frequently die many times more than the rest of the team in order to keep grabbing the Rainmaker and resetting the shield so we can repop it. This endeavor is helped by the Curling Bomb, providing enough paint while holding forward to gain a few extra points when grabbing before dying. If the Rainmaker is already being held, the Sploosh can act as either a paint support or a distraction due to its fast movement. While the opponent is pushing, the Sploosh will typically act as a paint support, but may go in if Hammer is charged or close to charged. It doesn't usually aim to get kills to keep its QR activated, but will if it finds it necessary. Once the enemy Rainmaker carrier dies, the Sploosh will help pop the Rainmaker shield and attempt to grab the Rainmaker and move it away from the enemies, and break away if the opponent was too out of position due to pushing. The secondary Rainmaker grabber in the comp is the Dualie. It has very good object damage and suction bomb, allowing it to contest pop effectively even when outnumbered. When pushing, the Dualie will typically hunt down safe or free kills to allow the Rainmaker to dive forward and die in a spot that provides a good Rainmaker pop. After repopping the Rainmaker, the Dualie will either grab the Rainmaker and dive further if the Sploosh is not back yet, or stay safe and crab tank if available. In the case of diving the Rainmaker further, the Sploosh will likely be jumping back in to help repop the Rainmaker shield. While the opponent is pushing, the Dualie's job is to either help the Sploosh dive the Rainmaker or stay alive to charge Crab Tank. Crab is super helpful for our comp on defense, as we don't typically have an effective long-range option. Once the enemy Rainmaker carrier dies, the Dualie will help pop the Rainmaker shield and provide covering fire and distraction to allow the Sploosh to run away with the Rainmaker. If the Sploosh is dead, the Dualie will decide whether to grab the Rainmaker or wait for the Sploosh to respawn and grab it. The main anchor of the comp is the Bloblobber. This weapon excels at popping the Rainmaker, having Sprinkler as well as pretty good object damage. You can shoot blobs straight into the air while waiting for the Rainmaker shield to respawn to instantly deal a ton of damage to the shield when it spawns. The blob never grabs the Rainmaker unless absolutely necessary to get lead, as we want it to be alive to provide jumps and repops of the shield. It is an excellent anchor during our pushes where we will frequently die and repop the Rainmaker. While the opponent is pushing, the blob's job is typically to continuously pre-fire the main choke point the enemy is pushing through, preventing them from moving without taking heavy damage. Although the job may change on maps where the blob can't reach the normal choke point for one reason or another. The blob will typically charge Inkstorm quickly while doing this, and will pop it for an ink tank refill and to provide even more damage on the choke. Once the enemy Rainmaker carrier dies, the blob will help pop the Rainmaker shield and potentially provide the sploosh with paint as they run away with the Rainmaker. The fourth team member has a flexible role depending on who is playing. The main thing they need to be able to do is provide frontline killing power to aid the Rainmaker in moving forward, as well as be a solid weapon at stopping enemies from running through choke points, working with the blob to provide a strong defense even though we have a sploosh with poor range. That has been the main idea behind the comp and our jobs. There's definitely a lot of nuance to be made on how we make certain decisions such as when to push different ways, actions based on length of time and points scored, and when to allow the Rainmaker to reset that comes with experience of playing the comp and playstyle. I find this style of play to be extremely exciting, and it's why I'm such a big advocate for the mode. We are able to make comebacks that would otherwise seem impossible because of our ability to continue the push. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for listening to what I have to say. I hope someday someone will enjoy Rainmaker even more than I do.